Good morning and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Levi Nolasco. I'm a top producing relocation realtor with Keller Williams here in sunny Las Cruces, New Mexico. In today's video, I wanted to go over common questions that I get with people who are moving or relocating to Las Cruces. I've helped so far about 150 people move into Las Cruces from out of state. And I collected a few questions that I see pretty often, and I just wanted to go over that way. It gives you a good idea of how maybe, New Mexico real estate is different from where you're coming from. And just a few tips and tricks to help you make the move a little easier. This is a new YouTube channel. I recently had to change due to not being able to respond to comments or change my email on my old YouTube channel. If you were subscribed to my other channel, please feel free to like and subscribe to this one. I'll be putting out a lot more videos now that I finally decided to bite the bullet and switch over to a new channel. And my next video is going to be about aging in place, and I'm really excited about that. A lot of people have asked about that, so that will be coming up soon. Also, feel free to join my Facebook page called Moving to Las Cruces. You do have to answer the questions before getting approval to get into the group, so please do that if you want to be a part of the group. And that's about it. So let's get started. Now, first, of course, I want to show you where I'm at. I'm in the Donian mountain range. This is where you'll find us, or me and my nephew, on the weekend. I'm here, my stock Lexus. It's able to make it up most of these trails. And the views are incredible. It's nice and quiet out here. And again, I'm a huge fan of impermanence. I just love coming out here and remembering that challenges or anything that you're going through at the moment don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, which I find quite a relief. And it's just beautiful out here. It really makes you reconnect with the feeling that you're on a planet and there's more to life than just scurrying through cities and trying to keep up with your neighbors. So let's start with the time frame that it takes to purchase a house here in New Mexico or here in Las Cruces. And I'm kind of comparing, I started real estate in Beverly Hills in about 2016 as an assistant. So that's really the reference base that I have to go off of. So a lot of this I'll just compare to real estate in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. So here in Las Cruces, it takes about 45 days from when you write the offer to getting your keys. In some cases, we can close sooner than that. The reason that 45 days, or I like to give 40 to 45 days, is number one, appraisals. For a long time, it was really hard to get an appraisal done within the 40-day mark. Now that the market's slowed down a little bit, it's kind of loosened up a little bit, but I still like to give that extra time just in case. While we're speaking about appraisals, that's one reason why I recommend working with a lender that's local here in Las Cruces. I've had experiences with the big box mortgage companies that are from not out of state, but just nationwide. They're going to have a smaller pool of appraisers to choose from. And appraisers here in town will give priority to the bigger banks or the local mortgage companies because they want to have continuous work, at least in my opinion, versus going out of their way to get an appraisal done for one of the big box mortgage companies. So to summarize, there's a pool of appraisers that each mortgage company has to choose from. The local lenders and the local mortgage officers and people out here are going to have priority over big box mortgage companies most of the time. Sometimes, you get a loan from one of the big names and you get your appraisal done right away. But in my experience, it's always been best to go with somebody local. Something else that adds to the 45-day time frame is inspections and getting contractor bids. It's becoming more and more common out here in New Mexico to get a credit instead of repairs or a credit in lieu of repairs. That either means that you're taking less money to the closing table so that way you can hire your own contractors and get the repairs done, or you're taking the money off the purchase price. That way you're paying less in interest and all that throughout the life of the loan versus having the home repaired before you move in. It still is an option to have your home repaired before you move in. However, it is really hard right now to get contractors and people out to houses to get things done prior to closing. At my house, I recently had a plumbing leak and it took about 4 weeks for them just to come out and look at the plumbing leak. And then they had to do a follow-up and it took about a week for them to come and do the follow-up. So almost everybody is really far booked out and they're only taking really big jobs. So Let's say there's minor repairs that you need done on your roof, such as cracks to the parapet walls. Most roofers are going to pass on that to do a larger job, such as redoing an entire roof or recoating an entire roof. So just keep that in mind. And if it's something, you know, that's an immediate concern, whenever you have your home inspection, it'll be listed in red. And that tells you that this needs to be done immediately. So anything that's in red, I always advise get it done before you move in. If it's orange and blue on the inspection report, then talk to your inspector and see what they think about it before deciding how to respond to the repairs. Okay, so now I'd like to specifically talk about repairs. So when I worked in California, this was back in 2016, things may have changed since then. I remember that each house that was being sold would get a retrofit inspection. So let's say, you know, the house was built in 1970, the inspector would come in, mark everything that wasn't up to code, and then the seller would bring the house up to code. So if you had old wiring, you had, let's say, no fence, no gate around a pool, all of that would have to be brought up to code before the purchase went through. Here in New Mexico, it's a lot different. We don't have retrofit inspections. If you're buying a house from 1950, expect the plumbing and everything, electrical systems and all of that to be from 1950. How a lot of realtors here in Las Cruces advise their clients on repairs is, of course, those red immediate risk items that come up on the inspection report, those need to be addressed absolutely. No question on that. The yellow items, depending on which inspector you're using, could just be for your information, or, hey, I know you don't know this house. This is something to keep an eye on. You know, might not need immediate repair, but I just want to let you know this is something that you should know about your house. So sometimes an inspector will have like a bunch of orange on the roof, and then when you talk to them in person and say, hey, how bad is this roof? They'll say, well, you know, I just wanted you to know about the condition, but you can still go a couple years without having it redone. But I just want to let you know that you should check it every year or every 6 months just to make sure that you're not getting any leak. And then there's the blue marks that the inspector will give. And a lot of that is DIY or for your information. These I do not advise buyers to ask for in the repair document. If you add a lot of really small things to the repair document, it's going to overwhelm the seller. They have the right to terminate in that process. So really what you want to go for are the major health and safety concerns. And of course, you know, water or small cracks that can lead to big cracks, I consider, you know, a health and safety concern, because down the road that can lead to some more issues. Anything cosmetic will not go on the repair list. I've never seen a listing broker, and as a listing broker, I've never offered to fix anything that's cosmetic. That's just really rare out here, and it does rub the sellers the wrong way. It also does if you send a huge list of things to repair. That can rub sellers the wrong way as well. So you want to make sure you just get your major items done, and anything that maybe you could do on the weekend or do at a later time that's not a health and safety concern, just do it then. Okay, so one of the big questions I get, or one of the things I notice the most, is that people, when they come from out of state, are surprised that, you know, they go into a house from the 1980s and it looks like it's from the 1980s. It's very uncommon in my experience to find an older home that's been updated. It simply just really doesn't happen out here. As an example, I told my mom that this is a question that I get a lot, and her house was built, I think, in the early 2000s or late 90s. And she replied, why would anybody update their house if everything's working fine? That's just a waste. So that kind of gives you at least a little bit of the mindset, possibly, of some of the people out here that don't do updates. Now, one thing I've run into only a handful of times is, you know, I've had somebody, again, from out of state, and it was actually California, that tried to pull a fast one on us. I was the listing broker, and they were asking for a gigantic credit. Now, when you ask for a credit, and only a credit, you don't have to supply what the number is based on. So if you're asking for $20,000, you just put $20,000 and then you don't put anything else in there. So we decided to ask, you know, send us an itemized list of what you're getting repaired, because I had a good feeling that they were trying to get the HVAC system and the electrical system updated to current code, and the house was from the 1950s. So it turned out that's exactly what happened, and it was really off-putting to myself and the seller. We ended up terminating and going under contract and selling it for more money to somebody else. So if you're buying an older house that has older systems, let's say, a house from the 1950s that has an evaporative cooler and has a 100 amp service. First of all, if you want those things replaced, I would add it to the purchase agreement and also add extra money to have those replaced. Otherwise, it's kind of like buying a used vehicle. Let's say you get a 1990 Honda Civic and you're mad that the motor's from 1990. You knew what you were getting into. Buyers have responsibilities as well. And if you knew that that's what you were getting into and tried to be sneaky and get some upgrades along the way, that's just simply not going to happen here. Next up on the list is taking possession of the property. So in a lot of states, I know that the buyer and the seller, and maybe if you're in a state that has attorneys and things like that, you may sit at the table with all of the parties to conduct the closing. So you see the seller, you see everybody, and once you sign, you get your keys right away. So in Las Cruces, it's a little different. Buyers and sellers will sign at different times, and you won't get keys immediately when you sign. So I always advise people when they're moving to New Mexico, if you have a pod coming, if you have furniture coming, make sure to schedule the deliveries and everything like that for at least 1 to 2 days after your closing date. And the reason that it takes a while to get keys is two things have to happen. You have to have funding and recording. So as soon as you sign, the title officer takes the documents and sends them off to the loan officer. The loan officer has to verify everything and then submit the funding to the title company. So that'll take, anywhere from maybe 10 minutes up to an hour or 2 hours, depending on who you're working with. Again, another really good reason to work with a local lender so that it gets done faster. So then once your funding is in, then your file gets submitted digitally or electronically to the county recorder's office. And depending on where you're at in line, it will determine how much time it takes for them to record. So most of the time, my customers or my buyers get their keys within 3 to 4 hours after signing. So you sign at 11 a.m., you're going to get your keys probably closer to 3 to 4 p.m. I always advise never sign on a Friday. There's a good chance, if anything goes wrong on the Friday, then you have to wait until Monday to take the keys. So Thursday, I think, is the latest you should be able to sign. Unless you're doing a cash transaction, then signing on Friday is fine. But that's one thing that I think is really helpful to people that are from out of state. I have had people schedule Comcast and different deliveries and services to be set up and then don't get their keys in time and then have to reschedule everything for weeks out. And I know that's a huge pain. Okay, next, I'd like to talk about utilities a little bit. So a lot of people always want to change their utilities as quickly as possible. And some people do it, even a week or two before closing. What normally happens in my experience is that once you're done signing, title's going to give you a document to take to the various utility companies or to send to them electronically that you can change over the utilities to your name. It's customary and I think respectful for people out here to give at least 48 hours after the close for you to transfer the utilities into your name. Some people don't do that, and let's say they cut off the utilities the morning of closing, then you're spending a day or more, depending on what day it is, without electricity or without your gas turned on. You have to have somebody come out there physically to turn those on for you, which can be a pain. And I have a funny story about that. So recently, this happened to one of my clients, and they turned the utilities off on some folks that were moving in from out of state the morning of the closing. And to me, that's disrespectful. I don't think that was a good thing to do on the seller's part. But they did what they did. So what ended up happening was my sellers delayed move in and they couldn't get the electricity turned on right away, so they had to wait a day. So the sellers who turned off the electricity actually had a delay in their moving company coming to pick up all their stuff. So it was about, I'd say, 105 degrees, 106 degrees that day. And I passed by the house after closing and I see the entire family in the garage just sweating it out like they're in a sauna. And I thought, what perfect karma for doing something like that and then having to reap the seeds that you sow. That was a little bit of a schadenfreude, or however you pronounce it. But yeah, typically people will be respectful and mindful and give you enough time to transfer utilities over. I think the easiest way to do it is to go to City Hall. It's in downtown. All you have to do is take the paper, go to the various utility companies, and you could do it like that. I mean, you'll be amazed. Like, you walk into City Hall and nobody's there. People are excited to see you. Just a real quick, easy experience and something to do and to get familiar with, at least in terms of city buildings, while you're waiting for your keys to get released. Now, for your electricity, you have to call El Paso Electric or do it online. You can't go in there in person. And something I want to clarify too that can be a little confusing is our water situation out here in terms of service providers. If you're in the city, you're going to have city water from Las Cruces. There's a couple other providers that privately own the water and service the water to different communities. A couple examples of those are going to be Moongate Water and Doniana Water. Now, in both cases, I believe Moongate and Doniana Water are less expensive than city water, which is awesome. I will say Doniana Water can be a bit difficult sometimes, so you want to make sure to talk to them in advance and not have your water shut off for 3 days and you can't get a hold of anybody. I've had some frustrations with that before, but the last couple of transactions I had that had Doniana Water actually went pretty smooth and they were able to transfer utilities easily. But you definitely want a bulldog when it comes to running into issues with utility companies. Since you're coming from out of state, it's going to be common for you to ask your realtor for recommendations on, inspectors, on contractors, on banks, on things like that. Just so you know, if you ask for a recommendation, we have to send them in threes. So you ask for a lender, we have to send you 3 lenders, and same goes for inspectors. We got to send you 3 at the minimum. And a lot of times I have people that will just email me and say, hey, you choose for me. And I tell them, I really can't. We send a list of inspectors and lenders and folks that we have worked with that in the past have provided really great experiences for our buyers and sellers, and that have been used multiple times without any issues. So a lot of realtors, there are quite a few realtors that have like lenders that'll pay for their Zillow leads or pay for their marketing. I don't have ties to anybody. I don't have anybody paying for anything for me. And I want to keep it that way. I want to be completely 100% not tied to anybody or owe anything to anybody. I only suggest people that I have worked with that will do the job well and that will offer some type of relief in terms of stress going through the contract. If you ever get a list from me, just know that that's where they're coming from. But other than that, it's your duty as a buyer to look them up online, look up their reviews, and do some investigating of your own before you decide on who to choose. Now, if you choose somebody that's not on the list and I know something about them in terms of quality or performance, as your realtor, I have to tell you. It kind of safeguards you from possibly making a wrong choice. There's lenders that I've worked with in the past where we were on our closing date waiting for documents from the lender and found out that they were at the bar having drinks. I told them, of course, I would never use them again. And if somebody ever brings their name up, I will tell them my experience that I've had with them. So I won't badmouth anybody unintentionally, but if you bring somebody up that I have knowledge of, I have to tell you what I know. One of the first things I did when I started becoming successful in real estate is I made sure that my bank accounts were set up for at least 6 months, so I wouldn't have to either consciously or subconsciously ever have to put my own stress or pressure into a transaction. I never want to be or never wanted to be one of those realtors that absolutely had to have a closing because I need to put food on the table or I need to pay my car bill or something like that. I think that's a really important aspect of being a top producing realtor, is that you're completely free and clear as much as possible from any outside influence. And one of the main roles of a realtor, of course, is to keep emotions out of it and keep a level head during the transaction so you can advise your clients correctly. I have seen where realtors are in a pickle, and I know they are. They just want to get the house closed, even if it's not really the best house for the clients. So I vowed I would never be one of those realtors. Now, I know there was quite a bit of information in this video, and I hope I explained everything to where it made sense. If it doesn't, of course, feel free to give me a call or text anytime. I'm happy to hop on the phone with you, even if you're not buying immediately, or even if you're not buying at all. I just like helping people out, so feel free to give me a call. With all that said, I do want to say that New Mexico and Las Cruces is absolutely an amazing place to live. Right now, I'm out here in the Donianas by myself, enjoying nature. In about 20 minutes, I'll be back home working on the computer. I just think that our lifestyle, our ease of lifestyle, or that's kind of hard to explain, but just imagine being able to go park anywhere, go into a restaurant without reservations, walk on a street without it being crowded, walk on a trail without it being crowded. Las Cruces really is the answer, at least for me, to a lot of the things that I was looking for before I left LA. So if you have any connection with, the scenery, this video, anything that I've said in previous videos and want to move here, or if that, that little voice inside your head is telling you to move here, then come out here and give it a shot and take a look at it. I also give people tours, even if they're not buying right away, just to show them around the city. So, it's definitely worth a look. This place, Las Cruces, is awesome. I love it, as my name says. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.